Hello, and welcome to today's Fireside Chat brought to you by Insight and Pure Storage. Today's speakers are Dean Chila, Principal Architect at Insight, and Paul Ferraro, Vice President of Global Pure as a Service Sales at Pure Storage. My name is Danielle Moore, and I'm the Marketing Manager at Insight and will be your moderator today. Before we begin, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. The webcast is designed to be interactive between you and the presenters. The webcast console you're looking at can be completely customized. You can resize or move any of the windows that you have open. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can click on the Q&A widget at the bottom and submit your question. All questions from this webcast will be captured. If you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please visit the webcast help guide by clicking on the question mark icon below the presentation window. The help guide covers common technical issues. I would now like to turn the presentation over to our presenters, Dean and Paul, for their introductions. Guys, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Danielle. Good morning, Paul. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dean Chila. As Danielle said, I'm a principal architect in the central region for Insight. I've been with Insight for 6 years, and that's after about 25 years doing various things in IT.
Dean, good morning. Danielle, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Again, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Pure and Insight are very strong partners. We're doing a lot of great things with each other. Again, my name is Paul Ferraro, the Vice President of Global Worldwide Pure as a Service Sales. And I joined Pure about 2.5 years ago to build the as a service model for Pure. And partnering with Insight, we have grown quite considerably. So a lot of very interesting things happening in the industry, and we're going to talk about, Dean, you and I are going to talk about all those things this morning. Back over to you.
Thanks. So first, I'd like to take a minute just to introduce Insight, the company, a little bit. We are a Fortune 500 global solutions integrator, founded in 1988, grown both organically and through acquisition to where we're at about $9.2 billion in revenue. We have about 11,000 teammates around the globe, operating in 21 countries. We have about over 3,000 partners that we work with. So we have a very comprehensive portfolio of solutions that we can offer to our customers. So also, we have about 8,000 of our teammates that are client-facing, and actually almost 5,000 of those are technical resources. So have a very deep and broad technical expertise in the industry. Just to talk a little bit about our partnership with Pure, we are one of Pure's elite partners, a national partner. In the last fiscal year, we did about $68 million in Pure Storage business. Pure is one of our strategic solutions partners. So we work extensively with Pure Storage in our research and innovation hubs. We have several flash arrays that we use for client demos and proof of concept. We do see early release code for new features that are coming down the line so we can test it and give feedback. Work quite a bit with some of the strategic partnerships that Pure Storage has. So for example, the flash recovered system with Cohesity. We've also worked quite a bit with FlashStack. We were early in on FlashStack, and I think we were doing FlashStacks before they were actually called FlashStacks, and helped define some of that solution. We also have some NVIDIA DGX2 nodes in our research and innovation hubs, and work quite extensively with those solutions. Recently, we were awarded the 2020 Partner of the Year for net new logos, and to show the partnership goes both ways, Pure Storage actually won our Cloud and Data Center Transformation Partner of the Year last year. One other point is we can also do what we call one call, what Pure calls ASP. So we can actually take first call support on the entire Pure portfolio. So now I'd like to shift a little bit to what we're seeing in the market recently. So as we all know, 2020 and 2021 has put a lot of pressure on businesses, and there's been a lot of pressure to reduce cost and become more efficient in how they operate. There's been a shift from a save to grow to a save to transform mindset. A lot of our customers are just looking to what they can do to make sure that they're optimizing their IT platforms. So that includes automating workloads, reducing waste by not having a bunch of unused assets on the floor that are taking up space, power, and cooling, and not providing any business value, and seeing what they can do to introduce more elastic designs, go to more of a consumption model, so that we're making most efficient uses of the customer's assets. So part of what we're seeing too is both in hybrid and public cloud deployments, companies are looking at either deploying workloads in public cloud or in a hybrid cloud model. But once they do that, they're seeing higher than expected cloud costs and need to optimize some of those workloads. So let's just talk about some definitions here quickly and just make sure that we're level setting. So going through the different purchasing motions of how you can acquire technology, let's start with CapEx. CapEx is a capital expense. It's the way we've traditionally bought IT equipment. This is where, you supply a purchase order and give us money, and we supply you with equipment. The cost is almost always all up front. It includes maintenance in most cases, and some of the challenges with CapEx is, typically it's depreciated over a number of years. We have to try to anticipate and size that properly. And I mean, the way that sizing usually goes, 1 year we can get fairly accurate. Once we look out to 3 years, that can be a little bit more difficult. Moving on to OpEx, this is typically a lease. There has been some changes in the rules for reporting and how leases are carried on a company's books. So leases typically, or in the past, have been more flexible a little bit. You can lower your monthly costs, but if you need to expand that, the cost can only decrease. A lease cost will never decrease. So because of accounting rules and things like that, this can affect how a company records profit. So also because there's a cost, and like I said, the costs only increase, an OpEx purchase through a lease can be more expensive in the long run. Moving on to as a service, this is moving more towards a true consumption model. So you can have a lower initial outlay. The difference between as a service and lease is that the cost can both increase and decrease. If usage goes down, then the cost can go down. So if there's a highly variable workload or an unknown workload, or I should say a workload with unknown characteristics, this could be the way to go. If a workload is static, though, this can be a higher cost ultimately. So the big difference also is this is not a lease. The asset is held by, for example, the asset's held by Pure Storage in the case of Pure as a service. So it changes how that is reported on a company's books. Looking at a cloud consumption model, this is can be a low initial outlay, but really it's infinite capacity. Capacity will expand to whatever you need it to be. It can also flex up and down like an as-a-service model. If managed properly, that's really key there, is it could be the lowest pricing if the cost and capacity is optimized. If it isn't, it could also be the highest pricing. So a lot of what we see and work with our customers on is cloud cost optimization. With a cloud consumption model, there are also some hidden costs that sometimes are not always taken into account. So for example, ingress and egress fees, sometimes there are fees to access APIs, things like that. So just doing just doing the initial multiplication on I need this much storage and it's costing me this much per megabyte, you have to take the whole service into account. So why storage as a service? So you're really, when you're talking about storage as a service, you're operating in a consumption model like the public cloud. There's upfront pricing. You can use this either on premises or as a hybrid service, but it's upfront pricing. You know how much it's going to cost you per unit. You pay for what you use. So as your needs expand, the platform can expand, and you're paying for what you use. It's not a CapEx purchase. Because the asset is held by Pure, it changes how you record it on your books. It is a true service. Important thing here is it's also a bridge to starting a hybrid cloud strategy. In the case of Pure as a service, you're purchasing capacity. That capacity can also be used in the cloud through Pure Cloud Block Store. So if you're looking at, if you're already using a cloud service or looking at a hybrid cloud strategy, you can rebalance your capacity from what you have on premises to what you have in a public cloud. So at the end of the day, it simplifies our capacity planning. We don't necessarily have to know everything that the platform is going to be used for over 3 years. We can expand it as needed and then pay for what you use, which reduces financial risk and offers a lot of flexibility for a storage platform. So Paul, now I'll turn it over to you and we can talk a little bit more specifics about Pure as a service.
Dean, thank you very much. Again, good morning, everybody. I'm on my third cup of coffee, so I'm going to really fire through things, and then Dean and I will have a conversation about what's happening from an industry perspective as we evolve. So a lot of great things happening in the industry, and Pure as a service is at the forefront of extreme innovation, because what we're doing is we are leveraging our partners in a very big way, Insight specifically, to be able to deliver, as Dean had said earlier, Pure as a Service Plus, which is that wrapper around everything that we deliver from a technology perspective and all those other things we do from a services perspective that then Insight complements. So this is my 51,000-foot slide, not 30, 50. So if we start from the bottom left, Pure as a Service is an unlimited on-demand model. On-prem, in the cloud, in a colo. We're SLA driven. We have a full service catalog that's available online. So if you go to purestorage.com and look under solutions, Pure as a Service, you'll see a calculator there. We even publish our MSRP pricing to the industry, which is very innovative. And all of our competitors now are doing the same thing. Of course, evergreen architecture underpins Pure as a Service to eliminate tech debt over time. And we're going to talk about that in more depth in regard to exit management. With a lot of these on-demand cloud type experiences or managed services, the exit management at the end of the term is sometimes terrifying for the customer. We've eliminated all those concerns. And of course, cloud operations, the cloud experience, cloud economics, There's a lot of rich things happening there because, again, we can run our technology in the cloud and we can unite and unify our APIs and instrumentation. The operating experience is totally different. And of course, cloud economics, because we're delivering solid state, compression, deduplication, encryption at rest, and we provide those capabilities in the cloud, the cloud economics of this makes it extremely cost effective for us to deliver the service and for our customers to be able to consume the service. And again, we're all about business outcomes. So we're interested, obviously, in a very big way with the underlying technology, but what's really more important is the business outcomes. What are the business outcomes we're trying to deliver? And of course, Dean talked about OpEx. He talked about leasing. Pure as a Service is a true OpEx model for three fundamental reasons. Number one, substantive substitution, which you can't do in a lease. Number two, you're unable to buy back the assets from us at the end of the service or during the service. And number three, which is another more critical item, is that we own the assets. We own the assets outright, making it a true OpEx model. And of course, we're looking at everything from a simple, fast, everything fast perspective. And of course, transparency and predictability. The beauty of storage as a service is it gives our customers the ability to prognosticate what their costs would be in year 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then make business decisions and make navigational turns as they go. So asset management, true transparency into the costs of the service and how the service is evolving over time and how it's being optimized over time. Again, what's really important there with as a service model is because it's so cost effective to do this, you have the ability to use that funding formally where you would have put it towards storage. You have the ability to then subscribe to all those other rich services and capabilities that Insight has to provide. And of course, on the far right, agility and efficiency, bringing down business risks, increasing agility and efficiency, and again, technical debt, eliminating technical debt. So again, a little background on myself. Again, I worked in financial services for 15 years, where I ran infrastructure, engineering, operations, DevOps. I was a budget owner, was involved with a lot of very small, medium, and large transformational initiatives. And what I discovered over the years, the fundamental thing that allowed you to be successful in these transformational programs is at the end of the program, you were not in a tech debt situation. And number two, you built a platform for continuous innovation. The way you do that is how you buy. You need the flexibility in how you buy. Again, let's define tech debt. Tech debt is legacy technology on your books, no longer providing business outcomes, and the very resources and the skills they possess to manage that technology are no longer contemporary. And last but not least, flex up, flex down, true on-demand capability. And of course, everything is included in this model, and there are no exit penalties. Again, many of our competitors, because they are leasing, at the end of the lease, they will say you have to renew or buy back the assets, and you're buying tech debt. With Pure as a Service, because the evergreen architecture underpins the capabilities, you never have tech debt. You'll be better than when you started and more innovative at the end. Okay, 51,000 foot. Again, I'd mentioned in high level that Pure as a Service is available on-prem with dedicated equipment to you in your data center, as well as dedicated equipment in your colo. And also we provide Pure as a Service in the cloud, AWS and Azure, running our CBS technology. So you get that true operational experience, and we unify the subscription model. So you'll have your subscription with Azure or AWS, and you will spend less with them because our technology running in the cloud is enterprise grade, compression, deduplication, thin provisioning, encryption at rest, and that subscription model transcends on-prem and in the colo. It's all integrated. If we look at the service catalog, and again, you can find our service catalog online. We have 4 tiers for on-prem and public cloud, and we have 2 tiers for unified, fast, file, and object. And again, what's critical to understand here is thin consumption, not capacity. Price times data times term. We're thinking about the data. We're no longer thinking about capacity. Again, consumption. If you look at the tiers of service, they all deliver relative performance and minimum commitment. The minimum commitment is to start the subscription, and that is per data center by tier. And the minimum term is 1 year. We have many customers sign up for 1 and then extend for 3. And we have many customers that want to do 5, 6. We have one customer today that wants to do 15 years. So it's very interesting what's happening in the industry. So again, you can find this information on Pure's website. Let's talk specifically about how we mechanically run the service from a measurement perspective. So again, a very flexible commercial model. There are 2 terms we need to make sure we understand: on-demand usage and reserve usage. So if you look at the very bottom of the screen, you'll see baseline reserve commit. As I said in the service catalog, minimum entry 50 TIDs per data center. And then over the course of, let's say, a 24-month term, you have the ability to raise your commitment if you choose to get a significantly discounted rate, because you're committing to it for the coterminous with the contract. And again, we bill for that up front, and there are minimums. But let's say over the course of the 2-year term, you've consumed your reserve commit, and now you're consuming the on-demand services. Rather than pay the standard unit rate for on-demand services, which is not a commitment, we measure it 3 times a day and we bill for it in arrears, we give you the ability over a 90-day period to make the decision. Do I want to pay the on-demand, or do I want a reserve commit to be coterminous with the 24 months? Once you do that, you are reserve commit for the remainder of the 24-month period. So therefore, we want to make sure our customers fully understand and they have that dynamic nature of making those decisions. Sometimes the on-demand goes up for periods of days or periods of weeks, and it comes back down again. But again, really, really flexible. Many of our customers decide to consume on-demand in a very, very big way. So again, if we examine this model in detail, the key is to leverage both the on-demand and the reserve commit based on your business outcomes, what makes the most sense for you. And then at the end of the term, the 24-month period, you have the ability to reset your reserve commitment and bring that number down to another value of your choosing, or you can exit the contract. This is what we call exit management. You have no obligation at all to continue to consume the service. We'll even help you migrate away with our professional services organization. But again, very different, innovative in that way, is that because we are not a lease, you have a very easy time of moving your data to another provider or to a cloud or some other solution. We understand that our customers need the ultimate flexibility. And having been a customer in financial services for many, many years, I wanted these capabilities, so we wanted to bring it to our customers. Let's take a further look at the operational benefits. So outsourced tasks, capacity management, performance management, monitoring and reporting. As a customer, I had deployed over 48 Pure block arrays. I had one developer managing all of it. So again, rich API integration. The operational simplicity with Pure One and the management plane. Again, we're doing all of our reporting through Pure One and all of our monitoring through this product. Again, the ratio of petabyte to resource, 10-to-1, I would argue that number is even greater than that, quite considerably greater than that. And of course, operational flexibility, you can flex up, you can flex down, consume on demand all you'd like. And again, we provide continuous upgrades to the environment. And if we are not meeting our obligations from a performance perspective by tier, we will upgrade your controllers using the evergreen capability of non-disruptive upgrades when you need it to meet those business outcomes. And of course, mitigated commercial risks. Pure owns the assets, as I said before. We provide SLAs, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and there are no exit penalties. So we are taking all of the risks, which is fundamentally a major shift that's happened in the industry. Over the years, having run engineering organizations, we would make a decision to buy something. Well, maybe it wasn't sized properly, and maybe after a year or two, it didn't have the capabilities that we needed. With Pure as a Service, all those problems go away, because essentially you need to look at Pure as a Service and the underlying infrastructure as clay. Because of our underlying architecture, we can change components in the environment to deliver those business needs included in that price. And again, a very fundamental difference to what our competitors are doing. They generally will deploy infrastructure and keep it there for the remainder of the term, and you'll be in tech debt on exit and potentially have to buy those assets on the way out. So again, Very different model. If we look at the 4 simple measurements, again, having been a part of other transformational managed services with all of the well-known players out in the industry, sometimes there's a tendency to sign up for too many SLAs, which weren't measurable. And as a result of that, you spend a tremendous amount of time trying to understand this SLA versus this SLA, what are meaningful SLAs. We believe that these 4 SLAs are extremely meaningful. And why they're so meaningful is because we can measure them using Pure One, which is very important. Again, case handling, availability, capacity, and performance. We maintain 25% buffer in your data centers at all times. When you choose to burst into on-demand, it is available for you to consume at no cost, right? So what I mean by no cost is we provide that 25% overhead, and if you're not using it, you're not charged for it. And that's a very critical point to understand. If you consume it, you'll be charged by a measurement of measuring it 3 times a day from an on-demand perspective. And of course, performance, as I mentioned before, based on our service tiers and the expected workloads that you would see on those tiers, if we are not delivering on the expectation, we will update those controllers to make sure your business outcomes are met. So let's just do a quick recap. And again, I'm on my 3rd cup of coffee. Think consumption, not capacity, data, not storage. Unlimited on-demand subscription model anywhere, anything. Our full portfolio of products are included, on-prem, public cloud, in a colo. We charge for the data which is written into the service. We dedupe, compress it, encrypt it. We're taking those risks. You're being charged for the data that's being written into the service. Evergreen is included in this model in the context that I had mentioned earlier. We are 100% OpEx. Again, we own the assets. You cannot buy them. Because it's not a lease, substantive substitution is allowed. And that allows us to leverage Evergreen to change components as you go. You can't do that in a lease. And of course, cloud economics I referred to earlier, power, cooling, data center footprint, data optimization dramatically reduce the amount of infrastructure that you require in your data centers. And of course, instrumentation and managed service through API. All of our products are fully integrated. So it's simple, easy, elegant. I suggest you automate everything with Insight. And of course, the sign-up process is quick and simple. Many of our customers ask for a 4-week service commencement date. Some customers ask for a longer period of time, but we're very flexible there. It's not like CapEx where you buy something and it's delivered and then you install it. With Pure as a Service, there is a service start date where infrastructure is deployed, set up, configured, ready to go, operationalized, and then the service start date begins. Of course, just to be very clear, we are not a managed service, and this is not an outsource. Insight provides that additional wrapper, Pure as a Service Plus. They provide all those other things that you need to deliver those business outcomes. So again, just a quick recap. So if I move to the next slide, this is the promo. So Dean, all of our customers that are attending today are going to be receiving a S'mores kit. And all of those potential customers that sign up for a session or a meeting with you, with Insight and Pure, they'll also be receiving the Solo stove so they can cook their s'mores. So Dean, what do you think, Dean? I mean, the industry is changing so dramatically. Our companies are in total sync with this forward direction, and we complement each other very, very well in terms of what you provide and what we don't do. Right? There's many things we don't do that we rely on a strong partner like Insight to be able to do. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to highlight, I guess I'll call back to the flexible hybrid cloud slide that you had a little while ago. Some of the things that we can provide is FlashStack, for example, that I mentioned earlier, we can actually provide a consumption model for FlashStack as a service for on-premises infrastructure. So it's sort of a combination of Pure as a service and Cisco Plus, but like I said, it's a true consumption model using FlashStack on the back end, and providing that on premises. For customers that are looking to expand out into a hybrid cloud model, we can provide both the consumption model on premises as well as help define and plan the cloud infrastructure. So for example, we have a tool that we've used that we developed internally called Athena that allows us to take a look at a workload. For example, if something's on VMware, typically we use an RV tools output, and we can sort of double click on a workload, look at what virtual machines that workload is running on today, and then show what the costs for an equivalent cloud infrastructure would cost a customer. And by the way, Cloud Block Store is included in the tool, so we can get an accurate representation of what the cloud infrastructure will cost, while still including Pure in the hybrid cloud model.
Yeah, it's really good. It's good stuff. Dean, just to go back in history when, and again, customers are still buying CapEx, and we're not discouraging them to buy CapEx. It's really what, the needs of their business are. But, one of the things that I discovered over the years being in financial services is I relied on my partners and my suppliers in a very, very big way to subsidize a lot of the skills that I simply couldn't hire. Storage industry specifically, and then we look at like a flash stack solution, fully integrated solution, is that you really need to embrace your partnership. You really need to embrace your partnership. And what I discovered over the years that if I had a multi-year relationship with a partner, we needed to really work with each other in a very, very collaborative way, right? The give and takes as we go. With an as-a-service model, you're signing up potentially for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So a lot of things can change over a 3 or 4 year contract. Maybe the customer wants to reevaluate their unit rates. Maybe a customer wants to reevaluate the equipment and the technology, better yet, the tiers that they're deploying. They may want to subscribe to additional services. Maybe they want to add sites, additional data centers. Maybe they're planning a data center move, which we have many customers that have signed up for Pure as a Service because they anticipated moving to the cloud, because they anticipated relocating their data center. All of those things create a tremendous amount of flexibility, right, Dean? So it's really a brave new world. A brave new world.
Yeah, and I mean, we all know how rapidly technology progresses, right? We're always looking at something new. Business needs change all the time. Platforms change. Containerized workloads are a big thing now. So, Pure is leading the way there with Portworx that, we're working extensively with. And, calling back to what we were talking about with using your assets more efficiently, just looking at optimizing and automating an environment is something that we do quite a bit with. But what allows us to do that is a very close relationship with our customers and a deep understanding of their infrastructure. Yes.
I would always look at it in the context of that transparency and that visibility you mentioned about optimizing the environment. I always wanted my infrastructure to be running at 400 miles per hour. And I always had the ability to then add to that infrastructure in a very seamless, predictable way that didn't disrupt the original engineering desire, the original deployment and outcome desire. So again, the as-a-service model allows for those things to happen. I also would use a term called the Martini effect, is that when I would buy capital, it might take me, and I would overbuy, and it might take me 24 months to get to about 60% utilization. And then when I reached that at 2 years, I now had to migrate off of it. And it would take a period of time to migrate. So I would never use the asset that I actually purchased. With an as-a-service model, you're using 100% of the asset. You're consuming 100% of what you're paying for. So a very different model, very different model. Dean, why don't we take some questions? Do we have any questions out there?
Yeah, sounds great.
Yes, we did have a few come in. The first one is, how does Evergreen apply to Pure as a Service?
So I mentioned earlier, Evergreen allows for non-disruptive upgrades. And again, because of the ability for us to do substantive substitution, and we are not a lease, if we are not meeting the obligations of the tier you subscribe to, we have the ability to non-disruptively, with a tier 1 workload in the middle of the day, upgrade the environment. No one else can do that. Next question.
Great. Can I use both Pure as a service and CBS as a hybrid solution?
Absolutely. As Dean mentioned earlier, CBS is a phenomenal product, right? Because again, when I refer to, in all due respect, when I refer to like AWS, I kind of think of AWS as McDonald's. It's very generic, and it doesn't have those rich capabilities like compression, deduplication, thin provisioning, and of course, data encryption at rest. By deploying CBS in the cloud, you can unify the operating experience with on-prem. So by doing that, you create tremendous efficiencies from an operations perspective. And in addition to that, it's all part of the subscription model. It comes with the subscription model. Next question.
Can I combine the different levels of block storage with Pure as a service?
Yes, you can. So you can subscribe to all 6 tiers if you choose to. And we have many customers that ask for variations. So sometimes they say, well, I don't want to necessarily start with a reserve commit to start the subscription with all 5 tiers. I want to start with 2, and then we can add them as we go. Again, based on the workloads that deliver those business outcomes. Excuse me.
Okay, we have one last question. If I subscribe to Pure as a service and someone asks who has access to my data, what do I tell them?
Pure is not managing your infrastructure. So Pure One is providing telemetry data and measurements of the environment to make sure it's performing optimally. And we're also leveraging Pure One to make decisions on increasing capacities, working with your teams and your change control processes, and also looking at performance. 80% of all Pure incident tickets are auto-generated by Pure to proactively preempt a possible problem. So the answer to that question is we cannot see your data. We're not managing the environment. We're not on-prem provisioning to your hosts. We don't have the ability to see your data. The data within Pure One is telemetry data. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, thank you. No more questions at this time.
Okay. So Dean, a lot of changes in the industry, and we're looking forward to having these conversations. So again, we highly encourage you to reach out to Insight and Pure. I would also encourage you to reach out to me over LinkedIn. Again, I've lived in the financial services world for the last 15 years, and I've been responsible for owning infrastructure for many, many years. So I've worn your hat, and I've been in your seat, and our goal is to listen to the customer and incorporate those needs, those challenges, and solve those problems within Pure as a service. So please, I encourage you to do that, and we look forward to meeting all of you. Dean, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, again, we appreciate everyone's time today. Some of the things that Paul was just talking about, that I think that's why Insight and Pure Storage has such a great partnership. Our values align, and how we work with our customers align. So, Insight's job is to really take all of the goodness of Pure Storage and provide all of the other services around it, whether it's managed services, automation, expanding out to hybrid cloud. That's all the things that we do. And like I said, it's great to have such a good partner in Pure Storage.
Very good. Daniel, back over to you, but thank you, everybody.
Thank you both for spending some time with us, and thank you everyone for attending the webinar, and we look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.